What a day to be inside, huh? The weather keeps going back and forth. It was nice a little while ago. The snow was melting. Now it's snowing again, but that's all right because it's almost time to go fishing. My wife decided to buy me a new reel. Totally awesome. It's actually a replacement for the one that I have. I was out streamer fishing one day and I slipped on a rock because I had basically the wrong tread on the bottom of my boot. Slipped on a rock and hit my reel and broke a piece of it. Tried to file it out. I really don't like it that much. I'll show it to you here in a second. But it was one of these SLV Akumas, the 5/6 weight reel. It's actually a really nice one. I like it because it's nice and wide. But I'll show you my other one real quick. Let me get into my little fly reel box right here. You tell I like fishing? Every single one of those is a different weight and a different type, and there's two sink lines in there. And that's the one I'm going to be replacing. So one of the things I'm going to need is I'm going to need a spare reel. This happens to be a Ross. I found that in the river, by the way. Still cleaning it. That's why it doesn't have a line on it. And the one I'm going to be replacing right here, which happens to have my 200 grain tungsten sink line on it for my 7-weight fly rod. And that would be probably one of my favorite rods that I have. It's the St. Croix Bank Robber, the one that Kelly Gallup designed. And I really like that rod. But I'm going to go ahead and change this out. So the reason I have this other reel right here is because I'm going to use this other reel to spool onto, so that I don't end up with a big knotted mess of line, because that's the last thing in the world you want when you're doing something like this. But before I get started on that, I'll go ahead and show you right there. That's the whole section that cracked out. Now I don't like that because, as you can see, when the reel rotates, it can catch the line in there and cut the line, and I don't want that to happen at all, especially if you got a really big fish on. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to unlock this reel right here. You can see it a little bit. Where is it? It's hard to see. Where is the lock? Where is the lock? There we go. I forgot, these Ross reels you have to push in. So now that I've got that taken care of, I'm just going to go ahead and pull these off. And you can see you can do this one of two ways. You can put this in your lap and you can spool off, but you have a lot of problems and stuff, because you can see how it's just on there and it's not really, you know, too secure. It'll come right off. Thing will unroll and roll and roll. So one of the things that I like to do, honestly, when I'm doing something like this, is I keep my reel locked in like that. And as you can see, it only makes noise on the way out. So what I like to do is I like to loosen up that drag all the way so that it frees pretty it spools pretty freely. And then I can go ahead and do that. Now you can build a carrier for these kind of things if you want. You'll lock this one in this way. You'll lock that one in flip-flop. You loosen up the drags completely and you crank and crank and crank and crank, and you'll eventually fill this one up. But me personally, I just like to sit it right here in my lap. And honestly, there's nothing special to this. It's a very timely process, unfortunately. But you just literally spool right over, just like that. And you're always going to have, if you don't hold the tag of your line, you're always going to have that coming around giving you issues. So I'll get one wrap on that like I'm tying a fly, and two just to lock it in. Now the cool part about taking the reel off is you can actually hold the side over here, make it a little bit easier to spool the line off. And then with your drag completely loosened up on this other one, it's literally just going to go ahead and feed you whatever you want. As you can see, it barely really wants to move that much. But that's also why you put it in your lap, because then it really won't move much at all. So this is a way you can unspool your line completely without having to put new backing on your new reel and go and waste all the backing and all that stuff, because honestly, that's, you know, a big hassle. Backing is something that it's not hard to find, but if you're not going to use it on the reel that you have, then you might as well take it off. And because I have a 30-pound backing on this sink line, I don't really want to exchange it to anything else. I might put another 30 or a 20-pound backing on it later and add a dry line to this, but that's about it. So I'm getting to basically well, I'm actually past what they call the reduced goop on this line. So as you can see, it's starting to turn orange now. And if you can see it in there, the backing is actually that bright orange, so I've got a little ways to go. But as you can see, it's spooling up really, really nicely on this, on the Ross reel. So I don't really have that many worries. This just makes it so much easier. It's not as fast as building a setup, which I might build one of these days, who knows. But if you're gonna build that setup, keep in mind that you're gonna want a reel that is trashed, okay? You've got no kind of drag system that works on it, none of that, okay? You just want a free spooling reel, because that way you won't have any drag fighting you whatsoever, and you won't be burning up a good reel that you could possibly use for something else. That's one of the main reasons why I took this off, is because I'm gonna have to spin it back the other way, and I just didn't want to deal with the hassle. But now, actually, if I did this right, I can go ahead and reel it in now, just like that. So, like I said, you can build a carrier for stuff like this, but I just don't really like to. I wanted to get this going good enough just to get it to build up. And as you can see, the reel's starting to actually get a little full. So I'm trying to focus on that one side and just build up the remainder of this backing, so that when I go and switch it, I can just unreel it right back off and go the opposite way. And I think I'm actually fighting the drag on this reel as I'm reeling it in. Not exactly what I was going for, but it happens. So just to give you an idea of how this system works, you know, if you were to lock these into each other, just like that, okay? See what I'm saying? So this is a system that you can put down on a piece of wood with a couple of clamps and be good to go, and just sit here and do this the whole time, and you can unspool your entire reel from reel to reel. But it's better to use a super trashed reel for this one to spool off your good reels, because it does need to go both ways, so you don't want any drags or anything like that. You just want to unspool and then respool. So that's how you can basically build a little thing for it. And I mean, the tension on that big reel is so loose, you can see it wants to spin, but it still pulls it over. And that's with the drag all the way out on that particular reel. But if I come in right here and I hold it, I can go ahead and reel this whole thing in if I want to. It's a little wonky, but it'll do it, if you see what I mean. You see the reel moving in the background, you see the line transferring and stuff like that. So that's just one of the ways you can do it if you want to build a setup. If not, you just hold it like this and just do what I was doing. If you get tired with one hand, you turn it around, put it around on this side so I go a little bit faster. I'm almost done getting rid of this backing on this reel. I did put quite a bit on there. But, you know, I'm a streamer junkie, and you don't want a fish getting away, so I figure if he was mean enough to run me in my backing, he was going to run me all the way down to nothing before I let him go, because believe it or not, I'll strip this backing right through my eyelids. I don't care. I'd rather keep the fish and see how big he was. I do a lot of catch and release, though. I don't eat everything that I catch, just to let you know. Okay, so this is starting to get a little stiff, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to pop this reel back out, just because it's maxing out on me. And I'm going to go back to the hand technique right here, because like I said, I am almost done. I told you it was a lot of backing, but that's okay. I kind of like the way it looks on the reel too, honestly. The color change and everything that you get, it kind of makes your cheap reel look all like not cheap. But these are $60 reels. They're not expensive, and the reason that I buy the cheap reels is for situations like this. You know, you fall, they break, stuff like that. I'm not going to go spend hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of dollars on one of the Glit and Glam reels and end up falling on the river or have something bad happen, and the next thing I know, you know, I'm out a $400 reel or something like that. I'd rather be out a $60 reel or a $70 reel at most. because as long as you don't break your line and snap your backing, then you can go ahead and reuse it. And as you can see, on this littler Ross reel, there's a lot of this backing building up. And that's mainly because these Okuma SLVs have such a wide channel in them that they take up a whole lot of line in the channel without building a lot of bulk on the reel. And I've noticed that on the dry line that I have, the streamer dry line, it's a little different. It builds up a lot of bulk because it's a dry line. But the sink line, not so much. And I actually like the wide base because it's less likely to foul up when you're fanning your reel closed. I found that if you run a little skinny tower and you're fanning, you have a tendency to wind up a knot, and then you're going to strip it back out, and next thing you know, it just doesn't want to work. So, by the way, I hope you made your coffee or your hot cocoa and everybody's staying warm, all right? Because the weather's getting really weird. I think it's the snow globe effect. You get it going one way, and then all of a sudden you tilt it, and it gets all wonky and stuff again. But anyway, so I'm going to go ahead and take this back out now that I'm ready. Set this off to the side. I'm going to pop the new one out because it looks like they completely changed the design. This is the old design, basically, of the old clutch system that's in these. That's how you provide the tension for the drag system in the reel. And the new reel, honestly, save the unboxing, right? Why not? Everybody loves to see stuff come out of a box. You know it's brand new. You see what it's packaged like. It really helps you decide on whether you want to order one, right? Fair. That's the way I see it. So in here, it's going to give you a lot of your standard information. You know what I mean? It's going to give you your parts list of all your parts that are in it. It's going to give you your instructions and your warranty information. Your instructions are going to show you and explain how to seat the reel from a right-handed reel to a left-handed reel, depending on which hand is your casting hand. So that's a bunch of good information to have in there. They put it up in a nice little bag, like most things, you know what I mean. But there's no fresh saver or nothing like that. Smells like metal. Anyway, they're aluminum. The whole reel's aluminum. I like them because they're quiet when you reel in, and then they make that noise when the drag is engaged. So when people hear that zzz on the river, with me, they know I have a fish. I'm not zzz and making people think that I caught a fish. You know what I mean? No, that doesn't work for me. Plus, it gets a little annoying sometimes. You're sitting here and I don't really like the clicks too much. But you can totally tell on the back of this reel how they changed it. They made it a little bit more, you know, squared out, less round. Other than that, it's the identical reel. I haven't seen any different. But it's got that, I mean, it's not loud. It's not a loud click. It's got good bearings. They'll fan pretty good, as you see. I mean, you can really fan these reels really well. They fan amazingly, which is one of the reasons why I got sold on the reel. Now, basically what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and take this reel seat, and I'm going to pop this reel seat off right here, and I'm going to lay them down the same way just for the sake of not getting confused. A lot of people have this issue. They'll put it on backwards, and then they'll go to reel it and go, ooh, or they'll wind it all the way up and then found out they spun their line all the way backwards on their reel. That's never a good scenario. So I'm going to take this reel seat just like that reel seat, and I'm going to set it down just like that. Then in here, you've got your loop that you put in to hold these in place. All you have to do is just literally get in there. You get into there and you loosen up that, pull it off this one, and slip it down. It is in fact a slip knot system, so it will loosen up if you get in there and kind of wiggle it. And honestly, when you tie flies, fly tying equipment works the best. So I'm going to go ahead and take my dubbing loop tool that's from Rising, and I'm going to get underneath this just enough to loosen that up just like that. Okay, and now I'm going to pull this off just like that. Okay, you see it's that slip knot system right here. That's all it is. It's just a slipping knot, and that's it. And then I'm going to put it right back on this one, the same exact way that I took it off without twisting it or anything like that. And then once it's on there, you just grab it and you give it a pull in the rotation just like that, and you're done. So now I can go ahead and seat this back on just like that. Just like that. Now remember, you don't want these get that under there real quick. So you got to be careful when you put these back in. I wasn't paying attention. See if I can get this to pop back open. Come on. All right. So make sure this line goes with the tension, countering it, and then back down underneath right there, so that you're actually inside your reel seat, so that when you do go to reel in, you're reeling in the right way. So now it's just a matter of transferring the line back to the other side. And you do have to be a little iffy about this, because you really do, as much as possible, you really do want it to get as smooth as possible on the first couple of layers, so that your wrap is really nice and you don't have any issues with that. So I'm going to see if I can sit this back into the Ross case right here. Come on. Go on. Get in there. There we go. Okay. Will it move? It will move. Barely. Now, anyway, so this is a part where you kind of want to take your time, because you want this to spool without any issues. You don't want any kind of severe lumps in the bottom. So it's kind of like a guide. You got to use your fingers as a guide. Just guide it back and forth. And for the Ross, I'm going to go ahead and loosen up the drag completely on it. There we go. And now I'm going to put the Ross in my lap. It's wound up pretty tight. So a bigger reel always helps too. So yeah, keep that in mind. And with this, like I said, you keep tension. I like to keep tension with my front two fingers and wind it just like this, so that it just goes right in. And I always try to stay as straight as possible. You don't have to get like right next to each other, but you can see how it's winding up right now. And it's the same thing. If I were to take this setup and basically go and mount it to a stand that would hold both these reels, at this point, this is basically what I've got. See? Oh, my light just died. Battery operated lights, right? But you know, it's essentially the same thing. It's going to go ahead and it's going to counter. If you wanted to go ahead and mount this to a desk or some kind of wood plank or an old, you know, rod handle or anything like that. But basically, this is what's involved in respooling your reel. And it takes a while, honestly. So I'm going to go ahead and finish this up, because I don't think you guys want to watch this whole thing. Well, aside from kicking my camera over and having to actually edit the video now. Just kidding. No, I really did kick the camera over. That's why I'm actually right where I'm at right now. But I'm getting ready to finish up this reel. So I figured I'd clip back in right about now, because as you can see, I can just set this reel right on the desk, because there's less weight on it and it doesn't fight me with the drag or the resistance or anything coming off of it. And I can go ahead and spool this reel up really nicely. But yeah, I went to go get untangled with this line as I was reeling it up, and I kicked my tripod over, which had my phone on it, and next thing you know, all you saw was sky. So, oops. That was a bummer. But as you can see, I'm getting down to the reduced goop again, which is kind of cool, getting past that yellow-orange line back to the actual sink line material. And this reel will be done and ready to go fishing. As you can see, I just crank on this thing. It's not really going to go too far. till you bind it like that. But this is one of the easiest ways to do a reel transfer when you're doing your line. At least that I think. I mean, it'd be easier if it was on a stand, but you would still need a guide. And there it is. There's the whole line officially transferred to the new reel. So, bingo. All done. Nice new reel, ready to go for streamer fishing this year. And then I got to finish cleaning up this Ross reel and get the rod that it was on taken care of and cleaned, and then try to fish this. This is going to be for dry flies. But in the meantime, I'll see you guys later. I hope you liked the video. Sorry about the edited clip in there. It just got a little wonky when I accidentally kicked my camera. I might show that clip towards the end or something like that in case you're interested. But in the meantime, if you did like the video, go ahead and leave a like on it. I'd really appreciate it. Share it with a friend if you would too, please, because you know, a lot of people get confused on how to change reels over and stuff like that and make it the easy way to do lines without having to hack your stuff all up. Okay? Trust me, I learned the hard way. All right? Other than that, hit that subscribe button if you're interested and you want to see more about fishing and everything else that I do, because I do all kinds of stuff. And yeah, stay warm. I'll see you guys later, and thanks again for watching, all right? Take care. Wrap that back up just like this. Take it like that. Ah! Well, that's what happens when you kick your camera, I guess. And you get all tangled up trying to straighten everything out. Ah! I'm losing you everywhere. Yep. So, as you can see, I don't have the greatest setup. So, I will go ahead and finish the reel. And I'm going to go ahead and edit this back in, alright? So, I'll see you guys in a bit.